everyone. I want to introduce you to the most remarkable woman, and that's Julia Jones.
Hi, Adele.
Hi. Julia and I have begun a journey together, which started a couple of years ago, Julia. How did we
Yes.
first meet?
Yeah, we met at a Women with Altitude event in Mawson, actually.
That's right, I remember.
And I was there with my party leader at the time, Elizabeth Lee, when I was still working in politics. And I got to know Adele and lots of other great women in the small business community. And it's a great event. It's a very safe and encouraging environment, Women with Altitude.
Yes, yes, it is. And I must say that that's where I've grown as a person and as a businesswoman, learning to do business after having been a ballet dancer and teacher all my life. But yes, it was wonderful. And I remember that day you actually taking the most amazing selfie of the four of us with Kirsten, my daughter, and Jody, the photographer, actually took a photograph of you taking the selfie.
That's right.
It's a beautiful
That's right.
photograph of us together.
Sort of
Wow.
like us in action, promoting ourselves and talking about our interests and what we're doing and how we're growing as people. And I think selfie skills are a really important thing these days. When I was a kid, you would have been laughed at for taking a photo of yourself, but
Never thought of that. That's true.
But now it really matters, and I think I'm not ashamed to put myself out there, and neither are you. And I think we give confidence to other women too as we go along.
Yes, and that's what this story is actually about, is your powerful journey and how you've come out the other end so incredibly strong and looking absolutely beautiful. So you can be very proud of yourself. So let's talk about the event
Yeah.
where I actually put my foot in it. If you would, if you wouldn't mind explaining to the listeners what happened.
Well, it was my birthday
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
That's right, 2023. I turned 43. And I turned up to a Women with Altitude event where we were doing some business checking. And I'd been working now for a year or so as the CEO of Pain Australia, which is my current role. And we were asked a bunch of questions and then to volunteer at the end who would like to report on their findings. And my finding was that I wasn't doing enough exercise and that I was tired. And I have been super fit in my life. I was a military reserve cadet at university. I went back to the gym after most of my children and got fit. I've door knocked half my life away being a political candidate.
Of course.
So I have spent large chunks of my life really fit. But I felt like after the birth of my last child, I lost a lot of capacity, and I worried that that was my new permanent state. And I said this to the room. And I said, I think maybe I just have to get used to it because I'm in my 40s. I have a large family, a big job, and maybe I'm just going to be tired. And I was really taken aback because the wonderful Adele, being who she is, once we were ready for feedback from the group, was very firm. And she said, that is not what you have to settle for. You do not have to settle for being tired. And that is the whole reason that I started my business, she said. And I felt quite rebuked, but in a really positive way. I want people to understand I'm not against a bit of stress and conflict. In fact, as a politician, it's the way we improve our society. And I think as humans, if we're able to look on the good side of a strong conversation, we have growth to do. And I had growth to do because I had to stop settling for being tired. And as a result, amongst other factors, I started to search again for maybe what the reason was why I was really exhausted.
Yes, yes. I'm so glad that I actually stood up and said what I said that day. I just felt myself spring up on my feet and go, I'm compelled to say something
Yeah,
here.
it was like a little bit prophetic, you know,
Oh,
it was very strong.
It was really, it was. I remember that feeling of standing up and going, no, you don't have to accept this.
Mm.
So fortunately, I stayed in your head.
Yes, you did very much. And I believe this is one of Adele's great skills as a trainer as well, as she stays in your head. And I can say I agree with that because since I've started training with you, that's certainly been my experience, which is a really good one. And after our discussion, a few months later, I noticed some pain in my breast when my daughter was playing a game and poking me in the chest. And I thought, okay, well, I've heard all this about women needing breast scans if they have any discomfort at all. So I decided to go and have one and tried to exclude the idea that I might have some breast cancer. and just as one of the things that might be making me tired.
Mm.
And a few weeks later, I received a call back to come back in for further testing because they thought they might have actually found something. And on that day, it was confirmed that I did have very likely have some cancer, and a biopsy was done, and it went away, and it came back positive.
Frightening. I've been there. I went a few years ago and they saw something and I had to go back in and they did the biopsy and they said that in the biopsy they'd removed everything. It was so small, and then that 2 week wait
Mm.
for the results
Yeah.
is life changing.
Yeah, like I've done lots of big things in my life. I feel like I've had lots of very stressful and exhilarating experiences, but this was a new level, and it really made me start to question much of how I'd done things. I was very grateful about a lot of the things that I'd done in my life so far, but it also is just a moment to pause and reflect on everything that you've done and the way you've chosen to live.
Julia, you were diagnosed with cancer when they called you in and told you. I remember when I went in and that woman had this poker face and I was having a nervous breakdown. I don't know if they did that to you. How did you
Well,
feel?
actually, in my the day I went in for the extra testing, I'd really put the hard word on the doctor because I don't like being treated like I don't exist.
Okay.
And I'd said to her, "What do you think is happening? I want the scoop." So I already went in there pretty
Okay.
aware that I very likely had a cancer.
Okay.
And I'm glad I did that. It's another example of sticking up for yourself. I was feeling like there's this tendency to not give you all the information in case it scares you. Well, I'm sorry, but we're grown-ups. We deserve all the information, whether it turns out to be right or not. I think I don't mind knowing that it might be cancer. I think anyway, I was very glad that I was taken into the doctor's confidence and she really explained to me that she thought it really was. And when I went back in for that confirmation discussion, it was really about where to from here. And I took a deep breath. I took my husband with me, and we went through the process. They also get you to sit down with a nurse, and the nurse said to me, "What's really important to you in this moment, Julia?" And I said, "Well, I really don't want to end up with one large boob and one small boob." And that was really important to me. And she said, "Well, if that's really important to you, then you fight all the way through this for that outcome for them both to be the same." And I said, "Okay, I will." And so right from the beginning with my surgeon, I was very clear that I wanted both sides operated on if I was going to have a lumpectomy. And so I had what's called a double mammoplasty and lumpectomy, so that both of my breasts were the same size, more or less, at the end of the process, which meant I didn't have to go back into surgery. And I was lucky I had a bit of extra tissue there. Some of the larger endowed ladies can probably empathise with me. They're a pain in the neck most of the time, but this was one opportunity where it was good. And I went through my surgery, and that was actually not the hardest part because for me, I've had many surgeries in my life. I've had 6 babies by cesarean section.
That's right.
I've had a few other surgeries as well, and a bit of reconstructive surgery after all of those babies. So the surgery itself I felt was okay, and I'd been through that process before. Chemo, on the other hand, that was a whole new kettle of fish. And what I decided to do with that was to do it the very best that I could. I thought, I like being professional. I said, so I'm going to be the most professional chemo patient I can be. That was my way of staying positive throughout it, and to look for the good and to look for the blessings. There were many good things through the process, although it was very difficult. Some people turned up to help me in strange ways that I would never have expected, and sometimes people who I didn't expect to help me helped me. And that was beautiful, actually. I said after it was finished that it changed me, and the way that it changed me is I think I was more positive about the community that I was in
Oh,
because
yes.
having been an opposition politician and a bit of stuck in a bit of a no position, you can feel like people don't like you very much. And even though I knew intellectually that wasn't the case, this was just great evidence that people did appreciate my work and appreciate me as a person. And so it was the safest I've ever been, really, in many ways.
Wow, that's fantastic. So the question was, how did you cope with first of all, the diagnosis and then the actual treatment and the journey after that. So did the surgery take place first?
Surgery first in my case,
Okay.
which gave me a peace of mind that the cancer was gone.
So they removed it?
They removed it.
Oh.
And I had what's called clear margins. That's when they slice through everything that's been taken and check the edges of it to make sure that there's no cancer on the edges. And so I had clear margins from my lumpectomy. And so then I had to face chemotherapy, knowing that I was more or less cancer-free.
Okay.
But it's a process you need to go through to ensure that you don't, you know, to have the best chance of long-term life.
Of course. And how did that make you feel with chemo?
I say chemo is like being high and hungover all at the same time. They inject your body with a lot of chemicals and it's very harsh. But I found the best way for me was to rest. And so even though there was a big focus on physical exercise, because of the life I was in and my family, I actually decided to rest for chemo. And I thought, when this is done, I will go and do some more fitness. But right now I need to actually give myself a break.
Wow. So you didn't find it debilitating? It didn't have you flat on your back or
Yes, it
nauseous?
did. Yes, it did. It was week in the first 4 rounds, which were fortnightly. I'd be week sick, week healthy, like week sick, week okay. In the good week, I worked because I loved my work, and that was the thing that I really wanted to do, was not to lose all of that I'd worked for to be in that position at Pain Australia. And so I worked 50% during my chemo. So I was still a CEO of Pain Australia, week on, week off for the first 4 weeks, and then half week on, half week off for the second period of chemo, which was the less intense.
So how many weeks in total?
20 weeks, 16 rounds. So the first 4 rounds were over 2 weeks each, and then the next 12 rounds were weekly.
So they hammered you?
Oh, yeah, it was a long one.
And are there different levels of dosages? I mean, was it a heavy or a medium?
It was just different substances. For the first 4 rounds, it was a substance that's referred to as the Red Devil, which is a very harsh chemotherapy. And then the 12 weeks after that, it's a less intensive. This is not an uncommon regime for someone with hormone-positive breast cancer like me. And it's just a matter of working through that. And I lost my hair, and I ended up knowing I was going to lose my hair, did a public head shave, and
I remember that.
Got some positivity around it. I really was worrying about women who might have gone through the pandemic and not had their breast scans, because we put off a lot of healthcare during the pandemic. So I thought it was a good opportunity to talk about it and invite people to take that chance. Over 40-year-olds can have the scans for free, but you don't get reminded until you're 50. So it's a matter of people proactively looking after their health before 40 through their GP, and from 40 onwards through the free breast scans if you would like one.
So then in September last year, you attended the Her Smile inaugural High Tea and Fashion Show. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
How far were you in your treatment then?
Well, I finished at the end of November, so I was getting through the treatment.
Kind of halfway?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And I put on my wig and my makeup, and I went.
Amazing. I was very surprised to see you there, and of course it was wonderful. Now tell me, how did you feel about watching our ladies and the transformational stories that they told?
Yeah, I felt like it was a beautiful thing that we don't see enough of, which is people being led into a healthier place. And I think we put a lot of emphasis on self-care and self-management, but that just puts a lot more responsibility on women to do everything for themselves.
True.
And in fact, as humans, we actually can't do everything for ourselves. We need a community. And I think what I realised at that point in time is that Adele is walking with a number of women at a time in their strengthening journey, which has an internal and an external component. And like we're not just a body, we're not just a heart or a mind, we're all those things. And Adele works with the whole person, and I was really happy for those women, and you could see it in their faces and the stories that were told about them, that they'd clearly come on a great journey from perhaps being less fulfilled or less able to do their best with their lives. We only get one body, we only get one life, and how do we get the most out of that and have the most fulfilling experience we can and bring others along the way? And I
Yes.
feel like that's what I learned about Adele in that process, was that she's obviously walking alongside people.
What I believe is that we are what we eat, think, do, and wear.
Mm.
All those things play a part in the whole holistic approach.
And my life experience has shown that as well. I always tell young women looking at politics that they need to dress a little above where they see themselves, because you have to help other people to perceive you in a higher position.
Ah,
So it's
that's
very
very good
similar.
advice.
And
Very good
I
advice.
say dress a step above. And so
Very
that
good.
when you ask people to support you to go a step above, they can picture that.
It's
Yeah.
fantastic advice. Yeah. It was early this year that you were given the notice of being in remission. How
Yeah.
does that make you feel about the future?
Yeah, I guess on one hand, it's a huge relief. And it's a very positive statement to make to the world.
Mm.
I had cancer and I'm in remission. The concern that it will recur will never go away, but I won't be living in the shadow of fear of that. I've never lived in the shadow of fear very much in my life. I've always looked at the possibilities and stepped into the future. And I think that's what we need to do. That's life. Otherwise, the cancer robs more from you than it should,
True.
which is just that time where you're being treated. And I won't let it rob from me my aspirations and my future. So I've decided to take every opportunity within my capacity
Mm.
to evolve some more and to strengthen some more and to embrace the next phase of my life. I'm different to who I was before. My hair tells the story in a way. I had beautiful long hair and now I have a cute short crop,
It's very
right?
beautiful on you. It's
Um,
beautiful and thick.
it's a new era and I'm embracing it. I probably wouldn't have chosen it, but that's
Mm.
okay, because beauty in all things, in all phases of life, and capacity and love. And I think I'm learning as I go through my life how women have our strengths at different ages in different ways. When I was young, I was, like the Jane Fonda example she sometimes use in our
Yes, yes,
training.
yes.
I was full of energy and I could have done 1,000 push-ups,
Yes.
At this time of my life, slow and steady strength training is for me, but it's also about the whole of life. The whole of life is a bit more slow and steady than it was. And it doesn't mean I can't achieve great things and some of the same things or more things, but it's just a different approach as we go through our different decades.
Yes, that's very sound advice. So, what is your advice to women now that you've been the journey? You've started training with us. First of all, how are you finding the training? I know it's early days.
Yes, we've done a few training sessions. I'm finding it like the right fit for me. And I think at different times in my life, I've needed different things. Sometimes I've wanted to go and exercise with a friend out on the street and to get out of my house with a friend.
Yes.
Sometimes I've wanted to go to a gym and have very focused help, but not have to do any homework in between. At this stage of my life, I was really searching for something more encouraging because I've been through a lot, and I'll get emotional now, but
It's okay.
last year was really hard,
Yeah.
and I need friendship as well as training.
Yeah.
And Adele is a whole person with a whole person attitude towards the people she works with. And I think that's giving me hope that I'll regain the strength that I lost
100%.
and be physically as strong as ever at some point soon.
100%. The more I work with women, and most of them are 40 plus, right up to the age of 70, 75, the more I work with these women, the more excited I become about their potential. I realize their potential, they don't. And it actually saddens me because I realize the potential they had as children, and that people, their carers, whatever, the focus was just different and they weren't able to realize that full potential in their beautiful bodies, which would then give them incredible confidence to do amazing things with their lives. And so, what I've noticed with the ladies who have come through our programs, I realize their potential, I encourage them, then they realize their potential.
Yeah,
That's
the penny
the
drop
aha
moment.
moment.
Yeah.
And when they see that, they get so excited, they walk the runway, they just do things they never imagined doing.
And I think in my case, I remember being taught when I was a military reservist that the human body can always strengthen. And I think it's something we forget. We're not just strong when we're young and weak when we're old. the human body, as soon as you start using it and moving it and strengthening it, it will strengthen. You can be 40, 10, 25, or 70. And using your muscles is the best thing for them.
100%. And the more you do, the more they want, and the more they develop, and the stronger you get. And then, as I say, these ladies step into their confidence, and so many of them have gone on to open their own businesses or step up into higher roles in their profession. So very exciting. So, Giulia, what we wanted today was to celebrate you and to tell your powerful story, to inspire women to take the necessary action to be responsible about their health and not just leave it to the system or to hope or to chance. So, what is your advice?
Look, I think find the friend and the system that works for you and keep looking until you find it. But if what you're looking for is a proper integrated discussion about your health, your well-being from someone with huge experience, personal achievement, and ambition for you, then Adele is a great partner for that work. It's a work, it's like a job. Getting fit, it's something you have to commit to and work on. And I know it will take me weeks and weeks to work up to the level that I'd like to be doing this, but that's okay. It's step-by-step process.
Wonderful. Thank you, Giulia. Thank you for being with us. And wasn't it absolutely amazing celebrating Giulia and her journey? And thank you, Giulia, for your time today.
Thanks, Adele.